name is Ruckus, and I'm a lot calmer today. And I'm 10-8. I'm ready to go. All right, how's everybody doing? Like I said, I'm a lot more calm today than I was the other day. Not that anybody gives a shit, but I'm not as upset as I was about some things. So back to normal, back to my normal self. Excuse me. Okay, so we've got some things coming up on both cases, to be honest with you. The court proceedings is not going to be anything major, but they may even both of these, they may be done over video. Because the stuff that Rick Allen's attorneys are doing over in Delphi, that's ex parte stuff. And I don't know, some people don't know all the lingo and stuff like that. Ex parte means it's shit that they can file without the other party being present or even having anything to do with. So what they're doing is they're starting the process of getting all the information from the prosecution, getting everything disclosed. So now they have to, when the prosecution gives up their evidence, what they have up until this point, and that's why it is so important to take your time before you arrest somebody and charge them. Okay, he's already been served his charge documents and all that, and he's already pled not guilty. It's important that you have all the evidence on him prepared before you do any of that. I mean, some of it is straggling afterwards, but it's pretty close to that time. Because not only do you have to turn over the inculpatory evidence, which is evidence that proves that he did it, you have to turn over the exculpatory evidence, which is evidence that excludes him, that possibly could have shown that he did not do it. So they have to be very careful with that stuff. And if any of you guys watched the news today, somebody from the prosecutor's office in a very snappy plaid suit, I may add, explained it a little bit. You don't want to get halfway, not turn it over to the defense because you don't think it's relevant. And then once you get into the case, you say, oh, shit, that is relevant. You can't bring that to the judge and say, hey, this is relevant now. The judge is going to say, well, too bad. You can't use that. And a lot of that kind of stuff happens, and people don't realize that. It's like the warrant that they served to arrest Brian Kohlberger, right, in Pennsylvania. Now that's in Pennsylvania, so it would have been easy to put the wrong address down. I don't know what their address is, but say the address is 101 First Street, and they put down 102 First Street. Well, the SWAT team gets there and they look at this and they call and they say, hey, this says 102 First Street. You can't just say, oh, no, that's supposed to be 101 First Street. No. You have to rip that one up, go all the way back to the judge and tell the judge that, hey, I apologize, we gave the wrong address. Well, some judges, depending on what it is, they might say, do you even know what you're doing? Yeah, no, we're not going to use it. You know what? You can't even have a warrant. You can't even figure out what the address is. So, they have to be careful with everything. What they release, what they turn in, what they disclose. It all has to be on the up and up. If you're the prosecutor, it has to be on the up and up. The defense can hide whatever they want. They don't have to disclose anything. They can hide whatever they want. So And that's why, and I'm going back and forth here between both cases, and I don't want to sound like an idiot and every 2 seconds say, in the Delphi case, in the Idaho case, in the Delphi case. You guys should be able to surmise which case I'm talking to by what I'm saying about it. And I don't, rather than address one and then address the other, it's just, in my pea brain, it just makes sense to address the same kind of things that are going on with each case. And like I said, in Brian's case, BK, he's probably going to be there because he hasn't pled yet. He hasn't pled guilty, not guilty, no contest, none of that. He hasn't done any of that. And he hasn't been officially served charge documents that I'm aware of, like Rick Allen was. So now it's been easy over the past couple weeks to kind of forget about Rick Allen and not forget about the Delphi case. None of us are going to forget about that, but forget about what's going on there, because the prosecutor definitely said that they don't believe that he's the only actor in this. So that is really interesting to me, that we haven't heard anything else up until this point. So they feel as though they have a really strong case against him, because they're getting ready to start the disclosure portion of this dance. And like I've said before a couple times, as of right now, in Rick Allen's participation in the Delphi murders, facts are nothing anymore. Facts don't count. Facts don't count. Nobody, we care. Everybody cares about the facts. But now it's all about presentation, smoke and mirrors, sleight of hand, piece of shit attorneys, good guy, bad guy, white hat, black hat, trying to prove a point, leading a witness, not leading a witness. It's like I said, if you're direct examining a witness, you have to be very careful. The other attorney will object, leading the witness, object constantly. But if you're cross-examining, you can say things like, well, that's because you were standing on the bridge, wasn't it, Mr. Allen? Well, you can't say that in direct. You can't. So that's why the ball's in the court of whoever gets to cross-examine. So at first, the prosecution has to put together a really good case, and they have to present it, and they really need to show the facts, irrefutable facts, because probable cause, just for the arrest, okay, it requires more than reasonable suspicion, okay, and it can't be based on a hunch. It has to be based on an objective facts, and probable cause only exists when circumstances known would lead a reasonable person to believe that the person is guilty of committing or going to commit or attempting to commit the crime that they're charged with. So reasonable doubt, I mean, that's the highest standard that there is. Okay? They have to show that it's the only logical explanation. It's the only logical thing that can be derived once they've seen all of the evidence. So it means that he committed the alleged crime. It's the most logical. Okay, so, and it doesn't matter if any other logical explanation can be deduced after all the evidence is displayed and delivered, then you may have a problem. You may have a problem with the prosecution. So they have to deliver it in such a way that there's just so many facts and so much is true that there's no way to explain it away. And 90% is direct evidence. The more direct evidence you have, the better off you are. But collaborative evidence is fine. There's people who have gone to death row without a body. They don't even have a body. Because, you have to, as a prosecution, right? As any law enforcement, detectives, anything, you have to prove a few things, okay? Ideally, you have to who, what, where, when, how, and why. Okay. Now you don't have to prove all of those, but ideally, if you prove those all, then you're in good shape. And who is easy? Who's the defendant? Who's the person? What crime did he commit? What are they charged with? So those two are the most important. If you can prove that person A committed the crime, then that's all you need, really, for a prosecution. The rest of it is icing on the cake. When the crime was committed, it is important because it gives you supporting evidence and witnesses. It happened at this time, and that's how this person saw him. We can prove that they're a viable witness because, look, they were there, so that they saw him, and that evidence was there, and we can prove that. So when matters, where matters for the same reason. You talk about supporting evidence and witnesses. Why was the crime committed? Motive, intent. It's not needed. You don't need any of that, folks. None. Ted Bundy didn't have much motive outside of he's a psychopath. So, most of those guys that don't have, you really can't prove a motive. That's what makes them so fascinating. Not interesting, but fascinating. There's really no motive that you can prove why these people did that, and it's amazing. And how the mode or method of the crime is the how. Now, you don't have to prove any of that, none of it. But if you get the who and the what, so if you get who and the charge, the crime committed, that's all you need. That's all you really need. So that's where they're starting from right now. They don't have to have all the extra stuff, all the bells and the whistles and stuff like that. So right now they're fine with what they're doing. So it's not like the public opinion right now isn't that fantastic, but everybody's judgmental when it comes to law enforcement and the prosecution. Like I said, there's white hats and there's black hats. There's not many gray hats out there, guys. Let's admit it. But with Brian's case, okay, and now, like I said, and we're talking about, and you guys have to admit this, that these court proceedings and these court documents talk about a reasonable person, what a reasonable person would think, and logic, that this is the most logical outcome after all the evidence, has been displayed that, he committed the alleged crime. It's the only logical explanation. There's no other logical explanation. And if there is, well, then he's not guilty, or a mistrial or whatever. Then he's not guilty. But they have the evidence that they have in both cases must be strong. And anybody that's never been employed in any position in law enforcement, or know anybody in any position in law enforcement or anything, you wouldn't understand how important that is. They just don't arrest people on capital charges, on murder, willy-nilly. They don't. They really don't. And I know a lot of people are not ignorant to how things work. They just don't understand how things work, how they actually work with the judicial system. Law enforcement has already done their job in both of these cases against these two individuals. They're done with their job when it comes to them. Now, in the Delphi case, there may be more work to do there, but on this case, I don't believe there's anybody else involved. The prosecution, I haven't heard anybody mention anybody else involved, whereas in the Delphi case, they have mentioned that, they don't believe he's the only actor. So there's still work to be done there. But in this case here, they're pretty much done. I mean, they've still got evidence to process. They're not at the disclosure stage yet. So even though they're close to each other as far as what stage in the process they are, Richard Allen's already pled not guilty, and Brian Kohlberger hasn't pled at all yet, and Kohlberger hasn't even got his whole defense team set up yet. And we're all footing the bill for that, but we have to as American citizens. Okay, we have to be afforded the same technology, the same representation as the state has. You have to, as an American citizen. And if you can't afford it, if you're indigent, then a whole team of experts will be afforded it to you. And those experts just don't say, oh, okay, well, I do it for free because he's indigent. No, they still get paid, and we pay the bill. But, I'm here to tell you, we pay the bill for Congress ski trips, too. So I'd rather do it for the judicial system. I don't feel as bad them taking our tax money, keeping all of us equal until proven guilty. You're innocent, so you get the best defense that they can possibly give you. And it's up to you to decide. Now, if they don't pick a good team, then they don't pick a good team. It looks like Rick Allen's team has been on it. They've been doing some really good lawyering and good posturing. I wouldn't be surprised to see this Idaho case move to another venue. I think they'll change venues there just to get to a larger demographic area, to have a larger pool of people to select for the jury. Not so much about it being tainted. It's just the bigger it is, because everybody's heard about this case. So it just matters, how much they heard. And I'm here to tell you, juries, the people sitting there in jury selection are some of the biggest liars you ever meet. Do you know anything about this case? What case? These 4 kids that got killed in Idaho. Excuse me? No, I haven't heard anything about that. They'll lie through their teeth to get on this jury. They will. Now, they try and keep it a secret, what they're selecting for jury. You could be going there to go to a jury trial for somebody who's fighting a DUI or some simple misdemeanor. You don't really know, but you can surmise by the questions they're asking you if it's one of these big cases. So if you're smart, I'm not saying everybody thinks like I do. I'm a devious, cynical son of a bitch, but in both cases, they do have processes coming up in the judicial system that are important steps, but they're preliminary steps still. We're not going to get into real good stuff for a while. I mean, to be honest, it could be over a year with both cases. I really haven't checked, but I was surprised that Rick Allen didn't waive his right to a speedy trial, which means that he doesn't have to have a trial right away. It gives him more time for his defense. And I haven't heard if he's done that or not. I guarantee you Brian Kohlberger is going to. His attorney's been been down this road before. Now, of course, Rick Allen's attorneys have also tried death penalty cases. That's why they got appointed, because he has to have representation in a death penalty case with attorneys that have represented somebody in the death penalty case. They didn't have to win it, but they had to have participated in a trial where the death penalty was on the table. So they have that experience. Again, as an American citizen, they want to give you the best chance to defend yourself. They just, honestly, guys, they just don't want to hang people. It's not lynch mob mentality. These rules and these guidelines and these, I don't even know what word to use for it, but these amenities that are available to us as citizens, whether we can afford them or not, is fantastic. That's what makes this country so great, because we don't have to worry about it. We're not just screwed. We're not going to get tossed into jail and forgotten about, like I'm sure still happens in some countries. And maybe even in some counties in some of these states, maybe, I don't know, but we have a constitution and we have rights and we have all that. So it's not a police state, and it's not a lynch mob going out to get these guys. But we've got I don't know if you guys ever heard of the Dunning-Kruger effect. Okay, that's where, and it goes both ways. People don't understand what the Dunning-Kruger effect is. It's where somebody thinks that they know more than they do about a subject, but it goes both ways too. It goes both ways. For instance, if you and I, right, if we didn't know Spanish and we got a week to learn as much as we could in Spanish, and I learned like 2 sentences, and then they were going to test us at the end of the week, I could be like, oh man, I'm a dumb fuck. I don't have this down at all. And yet you may have only learned 2 words. Do you know what I mean? So I'm thinking that I didn't do very well, but I did. And you could have been thinking that you did do well when you didn't, and vice versa. You could have learned a whole paragraph. I wouldn't know that. So it's where you assume that you know more than you actually do, or you underestimate how well that you would do. But that's where the other day when I was ranting and raving, hi Tina, how are you? I'm a little disappointed at an 8 and 9 season, but what are you gonna do? They lost some games because of stupid shit this year. I'm not totally displeased. They had some injuries, but Jesus, I'm spoiled. I'm a spoiled Patriots fan. I'm not used to 8 and 9 at all. But it's good to see you. Glad you stopped by. But now, I've had to put my foot in my mouth, eat crow, apologize with my tail between my legs because I thought I knew more than I did about something, and I just ran my mouth when I didn't know. Now, that doesn't mean that I knew I didn't know. I thought I knew more, but I didn't. And that's what the Dunning-Kruger effect is. And, before Google, we didn't know about this kind of stuff. But now it's prominent. It's prominent, and you see it every day. And I'm not talking about just Facebook creators or stuff like that. Even on the news, some of the stuff they talk about, it's like they don't have any idea what they're talking about. Well, then you find out, boom, they do. So you didn't know. Or vice versa. But now because of the internet and the anonymity of it, where you're anonymous, And there's people out there that have basically peaked in high school, most of us. Okay, I've got some college. I probably have enough for a college degree, but I've never followed through with it because I did it all through career development courses with the sheriff's office. But there's some people that peaked in high school. They never went to any college, no community college, nothing. They peaked out at high school. But yet now, because of the internet and they're anonymous, now they are demanding answers at a PhD level. They're demanding answers from fields which they have no clue about. They don't have any information about it, and they're demanding PhD level answers with, they've only been to high school, but it's okay because they're anonymous. And it makes it difficult. You need to leave the inner workings and the processing and the best strategic practices and all that to the professionals, and take whatever information they give you, which has to be the truth. I know everybody says, oh, law enforcement lies and all that. They can be deceptive sometimes, but it's strategically. They're being strategically deceptive, not to the general public, but they'll do it for a reason. We didn't know about the bullet in the Delphi case, did we? We had no idea about the bullet. We had no idea about Dylan being an eyewitness in the Idaho case. So does that mean that law enforcement was lying? No, they were being deceptive by holding information back. And they did lie. They said that in Idaho that the two other roommates slept through the whole thing, didn't see or hear anything. That was a lie. They knew that was a lie. But it was needed. It wasn't to deceive the public. It's because if they put that out, if Brian Kohlberger knew that there was a witness, he would have blasted before they got on him. He would have been gone, long gone. So that's good police work to do that kind of stuff. But you can be ignorant of your own ignorance as well, and that's excusable. That's definitely excusable. If you're ignorant to your own ignorance, well, then it's not your fault. But just let law enforcement do their job, and let them disseminate information as it's pertinent to disseminate, to pass along. That way, we don't have to judge them. We don't have to get pissed off. We can all get along a lot better, right? We don't have to question everything that law enforcement does. They're doing their job. There's hard-working men and women out there in Idaho and in Delphi that have been working nonstop on these cases. From the women that answer the phone when you call in to HR, to the detectives in the trenches, to the deputies that work in the kitchen at the jail. Everybody's doing their job, and everybody's working hard to keep this system running. So the bailiffs, all of that. So let's just let these people do their job, and whatever information they give us that's facts, we can take that and use some critical thinking and surmise what's the most likely thing that's going on. Now, there's a couple of things I want to address with both these cases that they bother me a little bit. Okay, the fact that Dylan, she's a victim. There's no doubt in my mind she's a victim, and people need to leave her alone. But the fact that she didn't call until noontime the next day, that bothers me. The fact that the homicide detective didn't get there for another 4 hours after that. I'm not saying it bothers me, but I don't understand it. I don't understand it. Were they working another case? Hi, MJ. So that's what bothers me on that case. Everything else I'm fine with. I'm fine with and like I said, I could be ignorant to my own ignorance, but I believe that I am a very reasonable and logical person. Now, reason and logic says that this Brian guy went by their house 12 times in a month and a half at stalking hours. That's what in law enforcement we would refer that as stalking hours, late at night, early in the morning, parking around that house for over an hour at a time. And whether he had a physical or fantasy or whatever with somebody in that house, we may never know. You know, and that's what's going to suck. If he does plead out to this, okay, because they're going to use that death penalty as leverage on him. They're going to charge him with capital murder, and they're going to use that death penalty. And if he pleads out, we're never going to know. Never going to know. Just like the Golden State Killer, D'Angelo, that fucking asshole's it pled out. He's going to take it to his grave. He's not talking to anybody, so we're never going to know. We're never going to know how many he's responsible for. But you know, all the cell phone pings, all this evidence that it points towards him being the perp, it all makes perfect sense to me, and it all matches, and it's damn near impossible for it to be anybody else. So I'm okay with saying that. I'm okay with saying he did it. This guy did it, just with the information that we have now. And I know people, well, the cell towers aren't accurate and stuff like that. They have more. They have more. Trust me. They put out enough so they could get him arrested, get his parents' doors and windows kicked in. But they have more, and there's more and more that's going to come out. So I wouldn't be surprised if he pleads out, to be honest with you. But here's what I think about that case is I think he's killed before. I don't think this was his first one. And that's not based on any evidence. It's not a hunch. I'm not going by a gut feeling. It didn't come to me in a dream. I just think that he's killed before because the fact that there's 4. You know, he was successful in killing 4 people first go around, and that's, if it is his first time, I mean that's unheard of. Right now, he is a mass murderer. Okay, because he killed 4 people. Now, if he killed like a couple people a week before and then a couple people a week after, or whatever, and that's a spree killing. But he got caught, so he's not a spree killer. But if he has killed before and they find out that his DNA matches, they don't have his DNA. Well, they do now. But his DNA wasn't in the system. They got him through genealogy, through his dad. So now that they have his DNA, if that matches up to other murder cases that they can now solve, well, then he may well be a serial killer. You know, I'm not saying that he has traits or anything like that. I don't, while serial killers fascinate me, I've never studied them. I've watched a whole bunch of stuff on, documentaries and stuff like that, but I've never studied serial killers or anything like that. I know enough about them. I've had my hands actually on a few of them, which is strange. It's strange that I've actually had to escort, touch, fingerprint, deal with people who've killed multiple people, and they're all cowardly, to be honest with you. But that's the couple things that bother me with that case. I think they have plenty of evidence that they got from inside the house, plenty of evidence to prove that he went there, and that everything he's done has been calculated. He tried to conceal his location, tried to conceal his identity. Um, you can't just borrow DNA from somebody and bring it somewhere and put it down. He brought it with him and left it there. So we're gonna see once they finish processing the rest of this evidence. You're gonna see. I don't believe I'm wrong on this. He's guilty. He's guilty as hell. Now, Rick Allen, on the other hand, in my eyes, he's bridge guy. He's bridge guy. And you know why I say that? Because they arrested him and they said that he is bridge guy. And they've said since day one that bridge guy is responsible for these girls' deaths. Bridge guy is. When they released the audio, they said they made it a point to say, now keep in mind, this is one person speaking. Why would they say that? Why would they even introduce that it could be two people speaking? So that kind of shit, bothered me. The whole crime scene thing, the timeline, something's afoot in this case. And Ellie knows. I am totally confident in Ellie. I am totally confident. They know what the hell they're doing. And they've got all of the answers. They're just not sharing them with us. And they don't feel like they can. It's just like not letting us know that Dylan was not only an eyewitness, but an ear witness. She heard this guy's voice as well. Now, they could do what's called a voice lineup. They could take like 5 or 6 people and record their voice saying the same phrase, and she could listen to them and try and pick it up. But man, that's hard to do, and she's probably not going to get it right. So that wouldn't help the prosecutor whatsoever. But I'm curious as to if she has, since he's come into play, if she's looked at a photo of him or whatever and said, yeah, that's him. That's the guy. So we don't know that yet, but all that'll all come out. That'll all come out pretty quick. And I'm sure they got a plethora of evidence. It's like I said in my last video, each one of those bodies is a crime scene and they've been processed. And they've got, unless this guy shaved his arms and everything, one hair, sweat. They find one little piece of DNA on one of these bodies, and he's done. Same with Rick Allen. We don't know what they have, and they've really kept it close to the vest. Now, this next hearing on Rick Allen's case, I mean, it's not going to be real much. It's ex parte stuff. It's where they're saying, hey, we need money. We need money for experts. And they're going to grant it to them. They're going to allow it. What's going to be interesting is the bail hearing next month on the 17th, because in the state of Indiana, the prosecution has to show a preponderance of their evidence. Now, that's not all of it, but that's what's required to prove in court beyond reasonable doubt. So they don't have to show all of the evidence, but they have to show a preponderance of it. They have to show a lot of it. They're going to show their hands. I mean, this is posturing on the defensive side, because they're going to get to see what the prosecution has. But here's the thing: it's a double-edged sword, because the prosecutor's going to show their hand, right? They're going to show what they have when they've already going to turn it over. They're already, during this discovery and disclosure and stuff, the defense is going to get all this stuff. But what the defense is going to get out of this bond hearing is the smoke and mirrors, the presentation, how they plan on delivering this case. Okay. So what happens is the defense, now they can plan their strategy a little bit better. Okay. So they're posturing. They're being wise. by doing this. They know they're not going to get bond. There's no way. There's no way they're going to get a bond. But they're doing this so that they can see the preponderance of the evidence, which they're already going to have. So it's not like it's going to be a surprise. But they're going to be able to see how the prosecution is going to deliver that evidence. Now, there's two things that can happen. The prosecution right now, they know good goddamn and well that this guy is not going to get a bond. The judge is not going to give him a bond. So it doesn't matter how they deliver this. Do you follow me? They already know the defense knows about all this evidence. They can do the, well, he did this and he did that, Your Honor, and look, we have this, look, we have this. We've already given that to them. But, oh, and then there's this, but we've given that to them too, and yada, 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 yada. They could play it that way, which would be smart. But also, if they don't, if they give the preponderance of evidence because they want to test their luck. Hi, Caroline. How are you, dear? If they want to test the waters and see reactionary things from the defense and all that, what they're going to do is they're going to learn from this. Whatever the defense sees next month on the 17th during the delivery of the preponderance of evidence for bond is not what they're going to see when this thing goes to trial. Trust me. Trust me. They're posturing. Both sides are posturing right now. And that's why I've said, and it sucks to even say this out loud, but facts don't matter right now. Facts don't matter whatsoever. The evidence is what it is. Now it's all about the dog and pony show, the slightness of hand, the smoke and mirrors, you know, a sleight of hand and all that stuff, the delivery of the evidence. But there's so many more questions in the Delphi case for me than there are in the Idaho case. Idaho case, put a bow on it. Put a bow on it. Hey, what's up, brother? Yeah, this definitely they're posturing for a deal, and that's just because that's what's going to get justice in the Idaho case. Is if he takes a deal so he doesn't get the death penalty, and he takes life. I mean, even let's face it, guys. Even if they give him life. With the opportunity for parole, he's never going to get granted parole. So they may even take that off the table. All right, just life, and you will have the opportunity for parole after 35 years or whatever. He's still not going to get it. But if he takes this to trial and he gets found guilty and gets the death sentence, the appellate court, it's going to be tied up in the appellate court forever. And those laws are fluid and they're constantly changing. So it could be 20, 25 years. This guy could not get executed till 2040, 2050. And like I said, I'll be long gone, dead and buried by then. And so will these victims' parents probably, or they'll be too old. But that's not justice. That's not justice. And here's what my last video, because I was so upset and pissed off, and I don't like getting like that, and I apologize. I know I cuss, but I usually don't cuss that much and be that vulgar, but it just, it upsets me when people do things like that. But you have to understand that if he gets the death penalty, okay, he's going to death row. He's going to death row. Now, we had a saying in law enforcement, if I take you to jail, you're a detainee. You're a detainee. Now, if you're in jail and you're waiting to go to court, well, then you're a pre-trial detainee, right? Well, if you go to court and you get found guilty, now you're a convict. You've been convicted. You're a convict. So when you go to prison, you're a convict. But I'm here to tell you, the only thing that they can't do in a prison, in Florida anyways, and I've worked at a couple of them, is rob banks. And you know why? Because there's no fucking banks in the prison. If there was, they would rob them. And they really have a lot of freedom inside those walls. They have their own society, they have their own way of dealing with shit, but it's not really a huge inconvenience for them, to be honest with you, except for they can't walk out and do whatever they want. Yeah, yeah, he can. He can complete his PhD in prison, which is crazy. Especially him. If he gets convicted of the death penalty, here's the difference. Okay, he's not a convict. He's a death row inmate. Death row inmates are not there to be punished. They're there to be warehoused until we can kill them. So they have more amenities. They're not subject to the same kind of rules. They have a color TV in their cell. I mean, they only come out once a week for a shower, twice a week for rec. You know, depending on what state it's in and their rules and stuff like that. But they get attorney visits, they get visits, family visits, they get commissary. Most of them get different diets. You know, different food and stuff like that, because they're not there to be punished. They're there to be warehoused until we can kill them. I worked death row in the state of Florida at Union Correctional Institute, and there was an inmate who was due to be executed in like 3 months. This man died of a heart attack, and they revived him, and they kept him alive so that they could fucking kill him 3 months later. I mean, they don't play when it comes to this stuff. They're there to be warehoused. If they're supposed to be and due to be executed, then they're going to be executed. They'll do everything in their power to keep that person alive and warehoused until the appellate system is exhausted. They have no more appeals, and then they're going to kill them. That's just the way the system works, especially in Florida. Florida's like Texas. You know, they don't have a. I'm here to tell you, in Florida, a person like Rick Allen would, and I'm not saying that he's guilty. We still have to do due process, okay? He hasn't been tried and found guilty yet. But if he is found guilty, he would go to the front of the line in the appellate system and stuff like that. They would make sure that he gets everything out of the way and he gets executed too sweet. As fast as humanly possible. They would deny him appeals. I've seen it. I've seen it. People frown on those kind of atrocities, so to speak. But he has due process. He's guilty. He's innocent until proven guilty. So is Brian Kohlberger. But Brian Kohlberger is guilty. Period. End of story. He did it, and that is going to be the final outcome. And you can mark my words. I mean, that's not even close. That's a slam dunk. He's done. Stick a fork in him. Logically, it couldn't be anybody else. Couldn't be. Now, and here's the Delphi case. Getting back to the Delphi case, okay. They arrested Rick Allen and they charged him with kidnapping. Okay, but they didn't just charge him with kidnapping. That's a whole different charge. They charged him with murder, felony murder, but while performing one of these heinous acts, okay, and as it turns out, it's kidnapping. Out of all those, there was like 7 or 8 different things that he could have been charged with as the aggravating factor, but as it turns out, it was kidnapping. So that means that they know that he knew that by kidnapping them, they were going to be killed, and they know that. Otherwise, they wouldn't have charged him with that. They wouldn't just charge. I mean, why? Why charge him with that? Why not just charge him with murder? If you can prove that he killed the girls, just charge him with murder. No, they had to go around this long way and say, well, we knew that he knew by kidnapping that they were going to be murdered. They were going to be killed. So that would lead someone to believe that there are other people involved. BK mom wrote a newspaper article about Ted Bundy about 30 years ago, claiming she completely against the death penalty. Very interesting. Yeah, it is interesting. Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, that is crazy. It's amazing that stuff like that ties in, isn't it? It's amazing. But and just before I go any further, you guys don't know this because I would never say anything. I would never tell anything. But Deja Vu, I owe you an apology. I was upset with you, and I apologize. I didn't mean that. I just get a little passionate sometimes, and you know what I'm talking about. Nobody else needs to. I apologize to you. I mean, I don't care if you stay watching me or not. That's not why I'm apologizing. I'm apologizing because it's the right thing to do. But getting back to Delphi, the search. Okay, they had time wave. What do you mean? I think it's because they can't prove that part easily. What do you mean by that? Because they charged him with kidnapping, but not just kidnapping. And this is why I was a little bit confused. He thank you, Tina. Thank you. I try to be. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Time that the charges for Rick Allen. They back in my day, they would have charged him with everything that they could. It's like I was saying, I was half-ass joking, but I half-ass meant it. That in the Brian Kohlberger case, if they can find the knife on the side of the road, we would have charged him with fucking littering too. Just everything you can charge him with, get him. So they could have just charged Rick Allen with murder, but they didn't. They're saying that he kidnapped them. No gray area. They're saying that he kidnapped him. Now, I've seen it argued that if you make a person move 1 inch against their will, that's kidnapping. So if I've heard the word gun thrown around, it's not verified by law enforcement. You guys all know how I feel about that. If it doesn't come from law enforcement, I'm not buying it. There's just too much shit going on. Just like this fake audio in the Idaho case. How sick was that, guys? How sick was that? I'm not sure if these victims' families heard it, but could you imagine if they thought that they were listening to their children's last breath when it was just a bull? Why would people do that? I don't understand it, and I'm not laughing because I think it's funny. It's more of a disbelief. Why would somebody do that? But if and I don't expect you guys to follow along with my way of thinking, okay? But they charged him with kidnapping. And I can't stress this enough that they knew that he knew that he was going to kidnap them, and by kidnapping them, they were going to be murdered. Think about that. And they knew that early on, they knew that. So, and this part can be researched, right? Yeah, Caroline. And honestly, babe, I'm not going to say I've seen it all. I stopped saying that a long time ago because as soon as you say that, you see something else. But I've seen the worst of the worst of the worst. I have, so nothing surprises me anymore. But the sheer volume of these people, I call them oxygen thieves. They're stealing our oxygen. People that are out there. Because Brian Kohlberger is definitely an EDP, okay? And in cop talk, EDP is emotionally disturbed person. Okay, not his fault, right? It's not his fault, but still, do and I'm not going to use the word normal, but people that are going about their business, not bothering anybody, why would they have to deal with a person like that? We've all seen it at the 7-Eleven, in the mall, wherever, these EDPs, people who are emotionally disturbed people, causing problems and making people feel uncomfortable, whether they mean to or not. They are interrupting my my constitutional right for happiness and freedom. You know, it's crazy. Yeah, deja vu. Or yeah, well, the burglary, and this is kind of like the kidnapping, right? With RA, they're charging. Why are they charging him with burglary? He killed 4 people. That's 4 death sentences or 4 life sentences. Okay, burglary is not. I mean, what's that carry? 10 to 12, maybe. But it was burglary with intent to kill these girls. So why deja vu? Why charge him with that? If they've got 4 counts of murder that they are pretty sure he did, otherwise they wouldn't be going through all this. And I'm pretty sure I'm not going to get involved with the who, why, what, where, how, who did what, who's a victim, who's not a victim. Yeah, I've learned that over the last couple days. Trust me. I just need to learn. Talk to my cop buddies one way, talk to everybody else another way. The conversations I have with my cop buddies are different than the way that I'm talking right now. Trust me. But why does it matter? Why charge him with burglary? How does that serve the court? How does that help? Right? How does that help? Intent. And we've already discussed this earlier. Do we need intent to gain a prosecution? Nope. Nope. Do we need a body? No. No. Do we need a where? Nope. No. How? Nope. We have to prove who and what. This person killed this person. You have to prove that. That's all you need. The rest of the stuff's icing on the cake. If you've got the who, what, where, when, how, and why, that makes it easy on a jury. Makes it real easy. You hear people throw around the word motive a lot. Well, what's their motive? Wow, did they have a motive? What was their motive? You don't need a motive to prosecute a case. That's a fallacy. It's a fallacy. Does it help? Sure. Sure. I mean, motive is exculpatory evidence. Okay, well, he had no reason. If there's 2 people, right, that they're looking at, then motive may come into play. If one had a motive and one didn't. You follow me? What up, kid? Yeah, burglary is the aggravated circumstance. But I think, and I don't know if you're right or not, and I'll check into it now though. But I'm pretty sure that murder also is death penalty in Idaho. It doesn't have to be capital murder or anything, just murder. So the shoulder's okay. It's been a little sore today. But I don't know if you've seen the video. I mean, they drilled a piece way down, cut the top of my shoulder off, and drilled down the middle of it and put a big implement in there. But it won't hurt once the pain's gone. I'm actually trying to get this thing healed up so I can get the other one done and be done with this shit. I'll be playing golf this time next year. Back playing guitar and everything. Hi, Sylvia. How are you, dear? But getting back to what I was talking about with the search, before I get sidetracked with charges, and it'll all come out soon enough, why they're posturing like that, why they're charging him like that. To me, that shit's interesting, though. Because I've seen a bunch of charges. I've seen a bunch of probable causes and warrants and charge sheets and advisories and court hearings and all that. I've seen more than I'd like to admit to. You know, there's just, it's depressing. I didn't like what I did. Honestly, I didn't like being in law enforcement. I did it because I had a wife and kids. Get out of the Air Force, it was a depression. I told my wife, either I'm going to do law enforcement or trash collection. There's two things you'll never get laid off from, folks. It's always going to be crooks, always going to be trash. I should have went trash collection, though, because that's all you can eat, too. But I wrote this, I printed out this little note for myself, right? And I don't know if it's backwards for you guys, but it's exigent circumstances. Because here's something that bothers me about this Delphi case. Soon enough, once this proceeding starts, we're going to find out what's going on with Rick Allen. If there is indeed other parties involved, or he did it himself. Because I can't. LE is trash collection, I guess. To a point. I'm here to tell you, Time, that I've seen a lot of people who were arrested that were innocent. So, sometimes LE, their hands are tied. They have to, especially on a domestic. Somebody has to go to jail on a domestic because they get sued. You go to a domestic and you say, listen, if I got to come back here again, like they did back in the 70s and 80s, you know, don't make me come back here. And then you leave, and then the husband kills the wife, or the wife kills the husband. Guess who's getting sued? Sheriff's office. So now you get called on a domestic. Somebody's going to jail. Sorry about your luck. Somebody's going to jail. But the search, getting back to this, the search, okay? And I've been watching a couple other YouTube creators because it just seems that with this Idaho case that the Delphi case is getting lost in the wake of this Idaho stuff. But there's a couple YouTube creators that are still hot and heavy on it, and they're still discussing it. And there's a lot of them. There's a lot of people, I didn't realize this, that still think it was Ron Logan. Right? Now, do we know whether or not Ron Logan was involved? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. My opinion? No, he wasn't. That's my opinion. But, and that's based a lot on law enforcement statements. I know those people are doing their job, you know? So there's just not enough for me to say, yeah, he's involved. If he was involved, we would know it by now, especially since his death. Unless there is more people involved, and by saying Ron Logan was involved, that would jeopardize their case against somebody else. But I don't believe so. But the reason I even mention it, it doesn't matter. All that will come out. Okay, it's just going to be a matter of time. Nobody, yeah, leave Ron alone. But we don't know for sure whether he's involved or not, do we? We don't know. I don't think he was, but I don't have a crystal ball. But the search, okay, yesterday I was watching Rick Snay's channel, Delphi After Dark. I have nothing against Rick at all. I made a couple comments during his live, and I have no problem with him whatsoever. He believes what he believes. I mean, he's got a problem with everybody else, I guess. He's going to battle with a couple different guys, Grav or Gravity, whatever his name is, and Matt Collins, and all kinds of shit. He's a magnet, I guess. But people are talking about, well, Ron Logan lives right there, and that's his property. And nobody could search his property because there was no warrant until the next day. Law enforcement asked if he could if they could search his property. Now, any of you guys that want to take a second to look this up, exigent circumstances, or you can just believe me. I don't know why I lied to you, but I could be lying. But exigent circumstances, and not only have I heard this term before, I've used it. Okay? If you don't need a warrant to go on or to search somebody's property, you do not. If there's a direct, if you chase a felon into a house, you don't have to say, oh, well, shit, we're done now. No, you can run right in behind him. Doesn't matter whose house it is. You don't need a warrant. Fourth Amendment's out the window. So when they were searching, without getting too deep into this, when they were searching for these girls, right? That is exigent circumstances. I mean, that's like the meaning of it. And again, to throw it out, I highlighted it. I'm throwing out this phrase again because it's right there. And there's no litmus test either. There's no judge in the world that's going to say that, no, you didn't have exigent circumstances, because any circumstance that would cause a reasonable person to feel as though if you don't go onto that property, that life and limb or evidence is getting destroyed and the such, okay? Leave breaking the law out. We're talking about missing children here. And they're talking about, well, they needed a warrant to go on to Ron Logan's property. Wrong. There's not anybody that would not call that an exigent circumstances. You know? Oh, yeah, Tina, you don't like Rick Snake? He cracks me up. I don't know if this is frontwards or backwards. Can you see this, Deja Vu? But you can look it up. I mean, it's easy to find. It's a common phrase. It's a common phrase in law enforcement. This isn't new to me. But the people that don't do this stuff, I mean, I'm sure you guys have jobs that I wouldn't understand what the hell's going on. Especially medical field. You beautiful people in the medical field. You know, I got a card. Caroline, it is. But are we? That's the thing. That's the thing. You know, I think of that all the time. You know, am I ignorant of my own ignorance? Could be. I wouldn't know it, would I? I would not know it. That's one thing I learned in law enforcement, that you can't judge anybody. They don't know. They think they're perfectly fine. And they probably are perfectly fine. Who am I to judge them? But am I ignorant of my own ignorance? I wouldn't know it, would I? At all. So there's just a touch. And Deja Vu, did you get to read that whole thing? I hope I held it up there long enough. But yeah, Jeannie, and hello, by the way, thank you for watching. I'm not talking about the search warrant for his property. That search warrant, they were looking for specific items to try and execute an arrest on him. They were looking for evidence. I'm talking about when they were looking for the girls, day one, when they went missing. Because here's my problem. Here's my issue. How did they not find those girls that night? I've spoke to Eric Williams. I don't know if you guys know who he is. He was one of the searchers. He's the guy that had a slip of the tongue on TV that night as it was getting dark. They were like, you know, oh, what are you looking for? And he he said, well, we're just looking for the victim. And it sounded like he was going to say victims, but he said girls. Now, this guy, he's a very good friend of Libby Williams' uncle. And he knows Libby, and he knows the family. And this guy's one of the most genuine, nice guys you ever want to meet. Okay? And Frank from Unresolved Crimes, I don't know how he got his information. I don't. But he did an interview with Eric. And it was a very good interview. And I first met Frank right about that time. And, Frank and I might have our differences, but we have the same kind of passion for this kind of stuff. But I enjoyed his interview, but I had a few questions. So Frank kindly put me in touch with this guy. And we've been friends ever since. Eric and I message back and forth for 3-4 months now. He texts me, wish me happy holidays, all that, and I've spoken to him. He's a really nice guy, and he's genuine. But he's pissed off at the way that search went. Okay, when he got there, everybody was at the Mears location where the girls were dropped off, and they were like dispersing out from there. And he's like, this is stupid. So him and his buddy, they got in the truck, drove all the way around, under the Freedom Bridge, down 200, down to the back way, up the old railroad tracks to the south side of the bridge, and down past the Weber property, down to the creek that way. And as it turns out, he wasn't that far from where the girls' bodies were discovered. He said if he walked 20 feet out into the water, or and it wasn't that deep, he said maybe ankle deep, right? Or if he went up to his left, there was an embankment that was kind of steep, he may have been able to see the girls. And that bothers him because he may also have bbeen able to, help them. Right? And I don't blame him for that. You talk to this guy for 20 seconds, and he's the most genuine person you ever want to talk to, and very caring, very nice guy. And it's crazy what he went through over that slip of the tongue, over that bullshit. Yeah, Tina, it's bullshit. If you guys talk to this guy, you'd love him right away. And he's told me more than once that he doesn't care. He would come on and I could talk to him and stuff. But I don't have anything else to really ask him. And I don't want to be a sensationalist. I don't want to have him on just to have him on. And I think he's not worried about his privacy or anything like that. But I think that he's not worried about notoriety and that kind of stuff either. So once the trial starts, I'll keep in touch with him. And if he has something to say, then fine, I'll give him. But Frank should have first opportunity to speak with him, because Frank's the one that spoke with him first time. But he's a good guy. But he has the same questions I did, and he was there, okay? Why didn't they find the girls? And I specifically asked him, one of the questions that I had was, dude, did you see anybody across the river on the other side searching? Because it would have took less time for someone to start at Mears, even if they went straight through the woods. It would have took less time for somebody to start at the Mears drop-off point, go through the woods, because I've seen videos, Mike Katz, Greeno, all that. They've gone through those woods in pretty good time, right? And it's on video, so it's not like, you're guessing. You can watch it. So the time that it took him to get in the truck and drive around the other side and walk up that, old railroad track, it wasn't cleared or anything. It was grown up. And all the way down the creek, somebody definitely could have got over to where the girls' bodies were found very easily. And while the terrain's difficult going up to the cemetery, it's not. If you go from where the girls' bodies were found and you don't go up towards the cemetery, it's not an embankment. You can go around all the way to the either the trail or the back to where the Mears drop-off point was. And people have done it. So it's not like it's anything special. And, I look at all these videos and stuff, and to me, those are slopes. I mean, they're not really hills; they're slopes, and I don't know. I just have a hard time. I'm not saying it's rough terrain. Deja Vu, I don't know which one you're talking about, but they're both at about the same point. Um, they're filing some paperwork Friday in Rick Allen's case, and then they have a bond hearing on the 17th. And Brian Kohlberg's case, the Idaho case, he's already had his first appearance, but now he's having his I can't remember what they call it. He's got an attorney, so he's had enough time to talk to her. So he's going to get his official charging documents and plead guilty, not guilty. So that that's coming up. They're about the same. Believe it or not, they're about the same spot of the process. Yeah, Delphi is Friday. They're filing paperwork for ex parte stuff. And hey, Tatted. And then on the 17th of next month, they've got that bond hearing that I was talking about. But that's all posturing stuff. They're just posturing. Okay, so getting back to this search, right? That bothers me. Now, they say, law enforcement saying the girls were killed right where they were found. Period. So, it's 8 a.m. tomorrow. I didn't know that, Tat. Thank you. Wow, I didn't. That's quick. Has it been 2 weeks? That's quick. Because he's got to have time to talk to his attorney so he can decide whether or not what he's going to plea. What his plea is going to be. He hasn't even been assigned experts or anything like that. But they're still processing his vehicle and the such. So, but they're both in pretty much the same spot. Both trials are in the same spot. Yeah, Sylvia, there is. And I don't mean to sound condescending. I don't. I just know. I've just been through this stuff so many times. I don't know what they have, but I know it's a shitload more than what they are leading on to what they have. Every single case I've ever been involved with is the same. They are not going to show everything at all, period. Oh, a status hearing. Okay, that makes sense. They have different verbiage. Here in Florida, you've got, from the time you get arrested, you've got 24 hours to go to your advisory. And that's where the judge will decide whether or not there's probable cause, advise you of your charges. You can't plead there. I've seen a lot of people try to. Look, can I plead guilty and get this over with? No, you cannot. You have to wait till your next hearing. Your preliminary hearing is what it's called here. I don't know what they call it in Idaho and in Indiana. But decided to stay searching. Okay. So this is like his advisory then, Tat. He got, yeah, I'm ready for the trial too. Believe me. And I'll jump back to that in a second. I just want to finish this thought on the search and the girls and stuff. But there's something else that I want to talk to you guys about on that Idaho case that isn't sitting right with me. But and not that it matters. Nobody gives two fucks what's sitting right with me and what's not, and I understand that. But I enjoy talking about this stuff and sharing my insights and stuff like that. So. Okay, so nobody found these girls the night before. Nobody. But now, also, there's a young man who had a drone, allegedly, that had FLIR, forward-looking infrared, which should have picked up a heat signal on the girls because he searched that whole area, allegedly, with that drone and picked up no heat signals. Now, people are trying to decipher, well, if they got killed at 3, their body would lose so many degrees of temperature per hour. Allegedly, and none of this is verified. Um, this kid's last name is Boatman or Boatman or something to that effect, Matt Boatman or something like that. I'm going to find out and I'm going to try and contact him because I am also a drone operator. I have a drone, and allegedly he forgot to turn it on, the record. When it's got like a backup system, the screen that you use to fly this drone that has the camera, you can see where the drone's going through the camera on this screen on your remote. That records. Plus there's a little SD card inside the drone that also records and stores the data. Well, he's saying that he didn't record either one of those. Yes, allegedly. You know how I am, time. So I want to reach out to this kid and find out, because I don't care. There would have been enough of a heat signature for him to see those girls. No doubt in my mind. No doubt in my mind. I've messed with enough FLIR instruments, both on helicopters and aircraft, to know that there's no way that he wouldn't have seen him. And I don't want to sound grotesque or anything like this, okay? But once the decomposition starts in the body, that generates heat as well inside the body. So it's not like they just get ice cold and then that's it. It's there was a lot of bleeding going on, so there was a lot of other things that were happening. So we and the time frame. Okay, they didn't find the girls, right? And they're saying that at approximately 2:15, let's just use that for a round number, that he told the girls down the hill, okay, ish. And then he wasn't seen until what time? Walking on 300, heading back to the CPS building? I mean, there was what were they talking, 45 minutes? Between 30 and 45 minutes to commit this crime? Now, we don't know this. He may have committed this crime and then sat down, walked around the woods. We don't know what he did. Nothing. And that woman that saw him on 300, muddy and bloodied, and I'm not discrediting any of these witnesses, none of them. But I've also seen videos of people driving on 300. That's barely 2 cars wide. That's just, even though it's a they consider it a highway and they label it as a state highway, it's barely. I mean, there's not breakdown lanes or any of that shit. They're not even maintained, it looks like. And so it's barely 2 cars wide. So you're not going to drive fast through there, right? And if she saw him and he was muddy and bloody, I believe her if she says that, because he couldn't have been too far away from her, to be quite honest with you. But my question is, none of us knew about this Hoosier store, whatever it's called, the storage unit place that had the camera, that's seen his car go by, seen the woman who went for a walk, seen her car go by, seen the car go by of the witness that saw the car at the CPS building, seen the car go by of the women who said that she saw him walking on 300. It says all that, but it does not say that it saw Rick Allen walk by. So I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but they're not saying that. They haven't released that. So that's what's causing everybody this distress, with their theory. And they really haven't given too much. It's like I said, none of us knew about this damn bullet. None of us. Until he got arrested. And it's like, well, yeah, that's why we arrested him. We found this bullet. And it came from his gun, which it may or may not have. I believe it did. Okay. But that's not a science that they're going to be able to they're going to die on that hill if they try and use that as their main piece of evidence, because any defense attorney worth his money, his salt, is going to disprove that toot sweet. I did a video on that too not too long ago about how the rounds eject, and it's not just a couple pins involved. It's the magazine and stuff like that. There's more metal. So depending on which magazine it was in. Okay, Jeannie, and thank you. On the bridge at 2:13, according to the video, he was walking muddy and bloody at 3:57. That's a long time. That's a real long time. So what happened between those times? And we're gonna find out. But how? Yeah, no one knew. Tina, I'm telling you, this case, this Delphi case, is how I got involved with the YouTube community, and I'm amazed at the YouTube communities. I'm amazed. I watched the chats and stuff like that. People are very educated, very educated. Some of them have no law enforcement experience that need to go into law enforcement, to be quite honest with you. They're very astute. They look at everything. But I got into this case because I seen something, and I don't mean to laugh at it. It's not funny, but as somebody with a law enforcement background, I saw something that said down the hill, so I looked it up. Okay, I think it was the documentary, and I looked it up, and it came to a Facebook post or whatever, and then it led to a YouTube channel, and I was like, wait a minute, hold it. Time out. They got a video and audio of this guy? No arrest? 5 years? Almost 6? Are you kidding me? That's what started me down this whole process. And the more I learned, the more confusing it got. And you fall prey to false information. We all do. We all do. And it's like I said, am I ignorant of my own ignorance? If I am, I wouldn't know it. You'd have to tell me that I'm ignorant, and then we'd argue. I'd tell you you're ignorant. Do you understand what I'm saying? So I try and be a reasonable and responsible person as much as I can, trying to err on that side of it. I know it's trying to kill 4 people in 20 minutes, so the law in Delphi is a great question. Yeah, but I mean, I don't understand it. I know this. Law enforcement is saying he's bridge guy. I believe him. If they say he's bridge guy, then he's bridge guy. I believe them 100%. Anybody that's saying that Ron Logan is bridge guy and all that, to me, there's not enough to support that theory. Law enforcement said that Rick Allen is bridge guy. I believe them. You look at the video, yeah, that's him. He's bridge guy. Now, what is his participation in this? And it's like I was just talking about. They charged him with felony murder, saying he kidnapped them, knowing what was going to happen to them. So that shows intent, premeditation, others involved. They're not saying he killed them. They're saying he kidnapped them and knew what was going to happen to them when he kidnapped them. To be honest with you, Sylvia, it does not matter what the families want. It doesn't matter what the families want. It's what the state wants. They'll charge him with whatever they can, to be honest with you. Because there's been people that get the death penalty, and the families graciously have forgiven the person, males and females, and didn't want them to get the death penalty. Went and visited them in prison and everything. When I was working death row, there was families that would come to visit the guy that killed their family members. I I don't understand it, but I've never been in their spot, so I can't really say. Okay, so I have the problem with the search for Libby and Abby. I definitely have that problem. Why didn't they find him the night before? Right? And law enforcement says, yes, Ted, the jury will. I would not want to, I don't know about you guys, I would not want to be on either one of those juries. Nope. And I have a very morbid curiosity. I do. I can look at anything. And if it's, I don't want to see gory shit just to see gory shit, but if there's a story behind it, yeah, I want to see it. I want to see all the evidence. But kids, I've seen enough crime scenes with kids that is disgusting. It changes you as a person to see that stuff, to see what human beings will do to children is disgusting. Disgusting. But yeah, Tina, they called the dogs off. I don't understand that. But to be honest with you, I've been involved with searches where they brought dogs in. I've had my ass chewed out by dog handlers. And I've never met a bad dog handlers. Dog handlers are great. I mean, they're law enforcement officers, but they're good guys, and they really love their dogs. But man, you fuck up their scent on them, they get mad as hell. I've had my ass chewed out more than once for doing that. And they're good once they get on the scent. But if you disturb it to where they can't get on it, and that happens, you're not going to get them. And their scent will even go across water. I found that out recently. I thought that once you get to the water, that was it. It'll actually stay on the water for a period of time. And some of these dogs can actually go across the water and pick up the scent again. So that's crazy. It's crazy. But so I want to find out how did they miss the girls? Is that explainable? Is there more to this story that law enforcement is not telling us? Which there may well be, because there's more involved. I've said since I've seen this Delphi thing that there's more people. There was more than one person way before they arrested Rick Allen. There's more than one person involved. And if you guys, anybody that's seen any of my videos, Keegan Kline is not innocent in this. He created that Anthony Shots account, and that is definitely in play in the girls' murders, no doubt about it. Otherwise, they wouldn't have mentioned it. And you need to realize that law enforcement would not mention that Anthony Shots account like they did if it was not involved. So it's involved. And who created it? Keegan Kline. So that tells me Keegan Kline is definitely involved. So how? There's no talent. He could be, I'm not saying that he knows Richard Allen and that they planned this together. I'm saying that he's involved, especially since he made that account and the Dropbox account. So he may not know Rick Allen. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of that, the 7 Degrees of Kevin Bacon. All of us in this chat, allegedly, according to Kevin Bacon, there's 7 people between me and every single person in this chat. I know somebody who knows 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 you. And they say that's true with everybody. 7 degrees. So they may not have been in cahoots. They may not have premeditated or planned any of this together. But there's 2 girls that were brutally murdered. And we can't just go by that. We can't just get interested in the who, what, where, how, when. These 2 girls were brutally murdered and terrified. And whoever did it, they're going to get them. They've already got one. And just the way they charge them tells me there's more. There's other people involved. So I want to find out, and we have to wait. I mean, there's certainly, I can't call them and say, hey, listen, I'm a retired deputy. Can you tell me when? They'll tell me to go outside and play hide and go fuck myself. They're not going to tell me anything. But I can't wait until all this stuff starts coming out and you can piece it together more and more and more, because I like theories. I like to surmise things. I just don't like this crazy shit that's going on. Some of this stuff that people are coming up with is, I find myself yelling at the damn computer monitor, but I try and be a little bit more truth orientated. And if you can't verify it, leave it alone. Don't spread it. Don't go out of your way. Well, that's the thing, Jeannie, is I don't think people are trying to be bad people and disseminate bad information. Some of them are just being sensationalist. There's no doubt about it. But people are not patient. They want to know now. And so do I. But you just have to understand the process. And it's absolutely healthy to talk about it and to try and surmise, what happened, but as reasonable people, not as, you can't use hunches. Hunches don't come into probable cause. I mean, I showed you guys tonight that everything revolves around what a reasonable person would think, and logic. To prove somebody guilty beyond reasonable doubt, there has to be no other logical explanation for what happened. And if there is, then he's not guilty, or she's not guilty. So, yeah, Tat, you have no idea how impatient I am. This is driving me nuts. But here's how I stay sane. I just look, all right, well, last month I was impatient and I'm still alive. So, I made it to this far. But I want to see now, I can't wait for Rick Allen's bond hearing, because the preponderance of the evidence is going to come out. And that damn prosecutor said that Rick Allen, he does not believe that he is the only player, the only actor, I think is the verbiage that he used in this. And it just leads me to surmise, okay, just looking at all the information that's there. Like I said, I don't understand this damn search. And I don't understand the time frame between 2:13 and the time that this woman says that she saw Rick Allen. I believe her. That road is small. You can't drive fast through there. But I want to know, was he on that video in that Hoosier Heartland, whatever it was, that store? Was he on video walking by there? That's not a lot of area there. Or did he walk around to try and conceal his location, which shows intent? So if deja vu. If they've got him on video walking across in front of that camera, then I'm happy with that. That just tells me that he participated more than just kidnapping the girls. But there's a couple scenarios that could ring true. Were they actually killed in that location? Law enforcement saying yes. They were killed right where they were found. But they could be lying for a reason. Okay, just like in Idaho, law enforcement definitely said the other two roommates were asleep on the first floor and they didn't see or hear anything. Right? Now, why did they lie to us about that? Well, A, because there was other people that went there and knew there was two other roommates. Okay, civilians that knew there was two other roommates. One of them was the person on the phone for the 911 call. So there's no way around that. So they had to explain away these two other people. Where were they? Why didn't they hear anything? Yada, yada, yada. So they had to lie. If they come out and said, yeah, there's an eyewitness, we wouldn't even know who this Brian Kohlberger person is right now. He'd have been long gone. He'd have been long gone if he's got half a brain, and it appears that he does. You know. Yeah, I don't know where poor Dylan is now. I don't know if they put her in witness protection. But that poor girl's been through enough. Hey, and Bloom, how are you? So I want to know about the search, how they didn't find those two girls' bodies in Delphi. How did they miss that? Okay. How did a drone with FLIR on it miss them when they were allegedly dead by then for a couple hours, right? Why'd they call the dogs off? Why'd they call the search off? Why were they talking about the terrain at night like it was so bad? You know, you think that you were on the side of a mountain the way they were talking. If those are my children, there's no way in hell I would have stopped. That terrain wasn't that bad at all. I mean, Ron Logan was going up and down it. I don't believe that he was involved with any of this. Could he have been? Yes. Yes, I can be totally wrong on that. But he's going up and down it. You know who can definitely run up and down all through that whole area? Fucking Greeno. Seen that guy on video under the bridge, crawling under the bridge, under the trestles, and running up and down those hills like nobody's business. But I looked at their slopes. I mean, Stephen Hawkins can get up and down those slopes. You know, my fat ass can go up and down those slopes. They're not that bad to where it can't be done. There's no way in hell that they're impassable. No, that's not going to happen. Not to me, anyways. And I would love to go there, just to see it, just to walk it. You know, who found the girls? That's another question. Because according to Ron Logan, during that surreptitious recording by those two women from Fort Wayne, Indiana, who were driving around, they recorded a conversation with him, and he said Pat Brown found the girls the next day. And it was found out, you know, just like this audio of this Ring doorbell with the Idaho that just turned out to be false just a day or two ago. Somebody put out some fake leaked texts. Some other sick fuck put those out. And what they have to gain from that, I don't know. But yeah, I would have too, Jeannie. There's no way I would. Yeah, I would have too. And I don't know, Deja Vu. I mean, if you're going to ask me to be totally honest, totally honest, okay? The girls were smitten, catfished, whatever you want to call it, by this guy. And I honestly believe that they were communicating with this guy, and it's in some form that inappropriate. Let's just say that inappropriate manner, either through text or photos or what have you. They fell prey to whoever was using that account. I know that Keegan Kline created the account, but we don't know if he's the one that was actually using it that day. Now, law enforcement knows that it's been used at the same time in different locations, but there's no way that all of the events that have happened are a coincidence. There's no way. There's no you can't even use the word coincidence in law enforcement. There's no such thing as a coincidence. This all happened. It's all. I'm not going to say it was calculated, but people automatically go into the defense mode and they try and hide their what they've done, and that happens a lot. And that's where law enforcement comes into play, and that's where investigative techniques come into play, and interview techniques and interrogation techniques come into play. I've read the Keegan Kline interview. I want to see the video. I want to see his nonverbal communication. I want to see his body language. I want to see all of that. That speaks as loud as anything that came out of his mouth. Anything. Now, were the girls lured to the bridge? Absolutely. Absolutely, they were lured there. They were familiar with it. They'd been there before. All teenagers had. They'd been there. But look at the information that we heard just to start with. Do you guys all remember flannel shirt guy? Who the fuck was that? Not even true. Right? It wasn't even true. The woman walking her dog who allegedly saw him on the south end of the bridge never existed. Never existed. So it's not hard to believe that people have been running down different rabbit holes all this time until now. Now we're starting to get some shreds of truth. And 17th of next month, we're going to get some good information. I'm going to be so ready for it. Yeah, deja vu, you're not kidding. Predator to the I've seen these people. I've seen them. I've dealt with them. I've spent hours and days with them. They don't care. Oh, Greeno made him up. Yeah, that figures. That honestly figures. But why? Why? And do you see what I mean? Good people came up with different plausible scenarios based on lies that were told that people thought were true. And that's why it's so hard. And that's why I implore everybody to please take a step back, take a breath. You know, I love information. You guys can email me, text me. I have a Discord channel. I love information. I love it, and I'll entertain anything, look at anything, as long as it's reasonable. That's all. Logical and reasonable. If you're going to give me some wild-ass bullshit, go somewhere else. There's plenty of places for that. But if you want to try and surmise and come up with something, I'm sure that just the people that's in this chat, that we could come up with something that's probably really close to the truth. Really close. But there's just too much bullshit out there, and there's too many questions that are not answered yet. So we would definitely be grasping at straws. We'd be wild ass guessing it. I mean, there's no way around it. Even though I'm retired law enforcement. I know how shit works. But was I there? No, absolutely not. Anybody that says they know what happened outside of Rick Allen and anybody else was there is not telling the truth, because they don't know everything. But we're going to find out. We're going to find out. And just when you think you know the person, anywhere you are, you're SI. I don't know what that means. Deja vu? I have no idea what that means. But that's all I had to say for tonight. I just wanted to talk with you guys and see. Yeah, you're right, Deja Vu. You are mistaken. Just when you think you got it down, shit changes. But if anybody has any other questions or comments and stuff, please join my Discord and let me know. And if I come up with anything new, I'll do another live. But I'm just not going to do them just to do them. I mean, can't beat a dead horse unless there's another case. If I find another case that's interesting, I'll try and suck you guys into that. get you pissed off at me because I'm leading you into something else that'll drive you crazy. But until that time, I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. I really do. I don't do this for any other reason but to meet cool people and get shit off my off my chest. I mean, I can't share some shit with you guys because you're not law enforcement and you wouldn't know what the hell that I'm talking about. But you'll see, you'll see some of the. Do you guys know what a mope is? MOPE. I taught you something there. EDP. We would call people like that Signal 20. Signal 20 is a crazy person. So if I called you and say, hey, man, I need backup, I got a Signal 20. You need to be 1012 to my 20. Got a Signal 20. But the EDP's emotionally disturbed person. And mope is a unsavory person. Crook, asshole, scumbag. Usually scumbags. But I will see you guys soon. I'll talk to you at some point, and I will put up from now on when I'm going to do a live. I just won't jump on and do them. So it might not be till next week or after that hearing. But at least after the each court appearance, just in case there's some new news. But if it's just all bullshit, I'm out. But you guys have a good night, and thanks for joining me. My name is Ruckus, and I am 10-7. Wow, almost 2 hours. This is the first time I've looked at the length. I apologize for that. That's a lot longer than I usually do. But thank you guys. I appreciate it very, very much. Please like and share. I would appreciate that.